loved her with everything he had, but the one thing he never realized was that the real relationship he needed to fix first was the one inside his own mind. He believed love was about finding the right person. He believed happiness would arrive the day someone chose him completely. Every morning, his thoughts began with her, and every night ended with unanswered questions. Why wasn't he enough? Why did love always feel heavy instead of peaceful? His mindset whispered stories of lack, fear, and emotional dependence, and slowly those thoughts shaped the way he loved. In the beginning, love felt magical. Every message felt like oxygen, every smile felt like a promise. But when love became uncertain, his mind became a battlefield. He overthought every silence, doubted every word, and feared every distance. He didn't realize that his mindset was turning love into pain. He was loving from fear, not from wholeness. One day, after another quiet goodbye, he sat alone and understood something painful yet powerful. Love didn't fail him, his mindset did. He had been searching for validation instead of connection, attachment instead of growth. He expected someone else to heal the emptiness he never addressed within himself. That realization hurt more than the breakup, but it also awakened him. He began changing the way he thought. He stopped believing that love meant losing himself. He stopped thinking that being alone meant being unlovable. He learned that real love grows when two complete people meet, not when two broken minds cling to each other. As his thoughts changed, his emotions softened. He became calmer, more secure, more present. With a new mindset, love felt different. He no longer chased affection or begged for attention. He loved freely, without fear of abandonment. He understood that love should feel safe, not anxious. Peaceful, not confusing. And in changing his mindset, his life began to reflect that change. Healthier connections, deeper self-respect, and a love that no longer hurt to hold. Because when you change your mindset, you don't just change how you love someone else, you change how life loves you back. Before love ever touches the heart, it is born quietly in the mind. Long before two hands meet, before promises are spoken, before emotions rush in like a storm, the mind decides how love will be experienced. He didn't understand this at first. He thought love was a feeling that arrived from the outside, something another person gave him. He believed love was proven through attention, time, and reassurance. But every belief he carried shaped the way he loved, and most of those beliefs were rooted in fear. His mind was full of stories of not being enough, of being replaced, of being forgotten. When she didn't reply quickly, his heart didn't panic first, his mind did. It created meanings, imagined distance, and assumed loss. Love became fragile not because of her actions, but because of the thoughts he fed every emotion. The mind became the lens through which love was seen, and that lens was cracked. When the mindset is insecure, love feels like walking on broken glass. Every step is careful, every word is measured, every silence feels dangerous. He loved deeply, but his love was anxious. He cared intensely, but his care was heavy. The heart wanted connection, but the mind kept whispering doubt. And so love felt exhausting, even when it was genuine. Slowly, he began to notice a pattern. Whenever his thoughts softened, love felt lighter. When he trusted instead of assumed, love flowed naturally. He realized that the heart only reacts to what the mind repeatedly tells it. If the mind believes love is unsafe, the heart stays guarded. If the mind believes love must be earned, the heart keeps proving its worth. Changing. Love didn't start with changing the other person. It started with changing the inner dialogue. He began reminding himself that love is not abandonment waiting to happen. That silence doesn't always mean distance. That someone else's behavior is not always a reflection of his value. As his mindset shifted, his emotions followed. He listened more than he feared. He felt more than he overthought. Love began to feel calmer, not because circumstances changed, but because his perception did. The heart finally had space to love without defense, to feel without panic, to connect without losing itself, guided by a mind that no longer treated love as a threat but as an experience meant to be felt, trusted, and lived through awareness rather than fear. A broken heart is often blamed on love, on timing, on the other person walking away, but rarely is it traced back to the mindset that carried the relationship from the beginning. When his heart shattered, he believed it was because he loved too much. He believed his mistake was caring deeply, trusting fully, giving honestly. What he didn't see was that his pain was not only about loss, but about the beliefs he held while loving. His mindset had tied love to attachment. He believed love meant holding tightly, needing constant reassurance, and fearing distance. When the relationship began to change, his heart reacted with panic because his mind had never learned how to feel secure on its own. The breakup didn't create the pain, it exposed it. The emptiness he felt wasn't new, it was only uncovered. Every memory replayed in his mind, not as lessons but as self-blame. He questioned his worth, his actions, his personality. A healthy mindset would have allowed him to grieve and grow, but a broken one turned grief into self-destruction. His thoughts punished him daily, convincing him that being left meant being unlovable. The heart bled, but the mind kept reopening the wound. He began to understand that heartbreak is not just emotional loss, it is a mirror. It reflects the way we see ourselves, the expectations we placed on others, and the fears we ignored while loving. His heartbreak showed him how much of his happiness he had handed over to someone else. It showed how little emotional independence he had built. Love had become his identity instead of a part of his life. In the silence after the breakup, his mindset spoke louder than ever. It told him stories of failure and rejection. It reminded him of moments where he felt small. But within that pain was awareness. He realized that healing wouldn't come from getting love back, but from rebuilding the way he thought about love. The heart doesn't break alone, it breaks alongside beliefs that were never strong enough to hold it. As he sat with the pain, he noticed something powerful. Every tear carried information. Every ache pointed to a thought that needed to change. The heartbreak wasn't asking him to stop loving, it was asking him to love differently. To stop seeking completion in someone else. To stop attaching his value to someone's presence. To stop believing that love leaving meant life ending and to begin seeing the broken heart as a message from the mind asking for understanding, correction, and emotional strength. The way he loved was never accidental, it was a reflection of the thoughts he carried every day. His mind shaped his emotions, and his emotions shaped his actions. When his thoughts were full of fear, love felt like survival. When his thoughts were full of doubt, love felt uncertain. He didn't realize that love responds to mindset the same way a mirror responds to light. At first, his thoughts were loud and demanding. He believed love required constant effort, constant proof, constant presence. If he wasn't needed, he felt invisible. If he wasn't chosen daily, he felt replaceable. These thoughts didn't come from love itself, but from insecurity that lived quietly inside his mind. And those beliefs controlled the way he showed up in relationships. When he began to observe his thinking, he noticed how quickly his mind jumped to conclusions. A delayed message became rejection. A change in tone became loss. His thoughts turned neutral moments into emotional storms. Love felt intense not because it was deep, but because it was unstable. His heart reacted to every assumption his mind created. Changing the way he loved didn't start with changing behavior, it started with questioning thoughts. He asked himself why silence scared him so much. Why distance felt personal. Why love had to feel dramatic to feel real. With every honest question, old beliefs began to loosen. He learned that love doesn't disappear in quiet moments and that trust is built in calm, not chaos. As his thoughts softened, his love matured. He stopped reacting immediately and started responding consciously. He gave space without fear and affection without expectation. He learned that love is not about control, but about freedom. When the mind stops chasing certainty, the heart learns to rest. He noticed how different love felt when it came from confidence instead of insecurity. Conversations became lighter. Emotions became clearer. He could listen without defensiveness and express without fear of being misunderstood. Love no longer felt like proving his worth, it felt like sharing his presence. Every changed thought created a new emotional experience. Trust replaced suspicion, patience replaced urgency, acceptance replaced attachment. Love began to feel natural instead of forced. Not because the relationship became perfect, but because his mindset allowed imperfection without panic. He understood that the quality of love depends on the quality of thinking behind it, and that by reshaping his inner dialogue, he was reshaping every connection he touched, allowing love to flow from clarity rather than fear. Fear quietly disguises itself as love. He thought his attachment meant devotion, but deep inside it was fear of being left. He believed his expectations were standards, but they were often silent demands shaped by insecurity. Every time he held on too tightly, he called it care, never realizing that love cannot breathe where fear controls the space. Attachment made him anxious. He needed constant reassurance, not because love was weak, but because his mindset was. He expected others to fill emotional gaps he never learned to sit with alone. When expectations weren't met, disappointment felt personal. Love became conditional, measured by responses, gestures, and consistency, turning connection into pressure. Letting go didn't mean loving less. It meant loving without fear. He began to understand that real love does not require possession. It does not demand constant proof. It exists even when distance appears. By loosening his grip, he felt lighter. He stopped monitoring every action and interpreting every moment. Love stopped feeling like something that could be stolen. Fear had taught him to overthink, to assume the worst before trusting the best. Attachment had taught him to cling instead of connect. Expectations had taught him to love a version of someone that existed only in his mind. Releasing these patterns was uncomfortable, because they felt familiar. But familiarity is not always healthy. As he practiced letting go, he noticed a shift within himself. His emotions became calmer. His reactions softened. He no longer needed to control outcomes to feel safe. Love became a choice, not a dependency. He learned to appreciate presence without demanding permanence and affection without guarantees. Expectations faded into acceptance. He stopped trying to mold love into certainty. He allowed people to be human, inconsistent, and imperfect without taking it as a threat. When expectations fall away, appreciation grows naturally. Moments feel richer when they are not compared to imagined outcomes. By releasing attachment, he found emotional freedom. He could love deeply without losing himself. He could care without fear of abandonment. Letting go didn't weaken love, it purified it. Love no longer came from anxiety or need, but from clarity and self-respect. Fear no longer dictated his behavior. Attachment no longer defined his worth. Expectations no longer controlled his happiness. In that emotional release, love transformed from something he feared losing into something he could experience fully, openly, and honestly without resistance. When his mindset changed, love did not arrive with noise or urgency. It came quietly, without pressure, without confusion. He noticed the difference immediately, not in the person he met, but in the way he felt within himself. He was no longer searching to be completed. He was no longer chasing validation. Love was no longer a destination, it was an experience he could enter without fear. Before, he attracted relationships that mirrored his insecurity. Now, his inner calm shaped what he allowed into his life. He didn't feel drawn to emotional chaos anymore. He felt comfortable with consistency, honesty, and peace. Love no longer needed to be intense to feel meaningful. It felt safe, balanced, and real. With a new mindset, he stopped mistaking attention for affection. He recognized the difference between someone who fills silence and someone who understands it. He valued emotional presence more than constant communication. Love felt deeper because it wasn't driven by need. It was guided by awareness. He noticed how people responded differently to him. Not because he changed his personality, but because he changed his energy. He listened more and reacted less. He expressed feelings without fear of being misunderstood. He gave love without expecting it to be returned in the same form or timing. This emotional independence made his connections stronger, not distant. Love found him when he wasn't forcing it. When he trusted the process instead of controlling it. When he allowed space instead of fearing it. His mindset allowed him to enjoy love without clinging and to commit without losing himself. He no longer tried to secure love through effort. He allowed it to grow naturally. Even when love didn't work out, it didn't break him. He understood that rejection was not a reflection of his worth. He learned to see endings as redirections, not failures. His mindset protected his heart without closing it. Love became something he shared, not something he begged for. He chose partners who chose him with clarity. He recognized red flags without ignoring his intuition. He trusted himself enough to walk away from what didn't feel right. When mindset changes, love stops being a struggle. It becomes a reflection of inner peace. It shows up as respect, understanding, and emotional safety. Life responds differently when the mind is aligned with self-worth. Love finds you in healthier ways, speaks to you in softer tones, and stays without needing to be chased, proving that the relationship you build with your mind determines the love story you live every day.